The cold water from the bucket splashed across the stone floor. Eleanor dropped to her knees. Her hands trembled as she grabbed the scrubbing brush. She had been awake since before dawn. Her back ached. Her fingers were red and cracked from the harsh soap. "You missed a spot, you clumsy girl." Her cousin Beatrice stood in the doorway. She wore a beautiful blue morning dress. Her blonde hair was perfectly arranged. She pointed one delicate finger at the corner. "There. Do you see it? Or are you as blind as you are stupid?" Eleanor bit her lip. She tasted blood. "Yes, Miss Beatrice, I will clean it again." "You will clean it properly this time." Beatrice stepped closer. Her silk slippers made soft sounds on the stone. "My mother was too kind to take you in after your parents died. You were 12 then. 6 years we have fed you. 6 years we have given you a roof over your head. And how do you repay us? With laziness and incompetence." The words cut deep. They always did. Eleanor had heard them every day for 6 years. She was a burden. She was worthless. She should be grateful for the scraps they gave her. "I am sorry, Miss Beatrice." Eleanor kept her eyes down. She learned long ago not to look at her cousin directly. That only made things worse. Sorry is not enough. Beatrice kicked the bucket. Water spilled everywhere. "Clean this mess, and then you will polish every candlestick in the drawing room. My mother is entertaining Lady Ashford this afternoon. Everything must be perfect." Beatrice swept from the room. The door slammed behind her. Eleanor sat back on her heels. She wanted to cry, but tears were a luxury she could not afford. She had work to do. There was always more work to do. She was not always like this. Once, she had been loved. Her father was a vicar with a small country parish. Her mother sang to her every night. They had little money, but they had warmth. They had laughter. They had each other. Then the fever came. It took her father first. Her mother followed. 3 days later, Eleanor was left alone. Her only living relatives were her mother's sister and her family. Aunt Margaret agreed to take her in, but there was a price. Eleanor became a servant in everything but name. She wore cast-off dresses that did not fit. She slept in a tiny room in the attic. She ate leftovers in the kitchen. She cleaned and scrubbed and polished from morning until night, and she was reminded constantly that she should be grateful. But sometimes, when she was alone in her room at night, Eleanor allowed herself to dream. She imagined a different life, a life where someone valued her, a life where she was more than a burden, a life where she might be loved. She shook her head. Dreams were dangerous. Dreams led to disappointment. She picked up the brush and started scrubbing again. Across London, in a grand townhouse in Mayfair, another person was suffering. The Duke of Ashbourne sat in his study. A glass of brandy sat untouched on the desk. His left shoulder throbbed with pain. The wound he received in the Peninsular War would never fully heal. The doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. He did not feel lucky. His name was Alexander Blackwood. He was 30 years old. He had inherited the dukedom when his father died 5 years ago. He had money. He had power. He had one of the oldest titles in England. And he had never felt more alone. The war changed him. He saw men die. He held his best friend as he took his last breath. He killed men in battle. He came home with a medal and a wound that would not stop hurting. People called him a hero. He felt like a ghost. Society expected him to marry. His mother, the Dowager Duchess, reminded him constantly. He needed an heir. He needed to secure the family line. He needed to do his duty. But how could he ask a woman to share his life? He woke screaming from nightmares. He could barely lift his left arm some days. He was hollow inside. What did he have to offer, except a title and money? His secretary knocked on the door. "Your Grace, Lady Ashford is here to see you." Alexander straightened in his chair. He schooled his features into a neutral expression. "Show her in." Lady Ashford swept into the room. She was his mother's closest friend. She had known him since he was a boy. She did not waste time on pleasantries. "Alexander, you look terrible." She sat down without being invited. "When did you last sleep properly?" "Last night." It was a lie. He barely slept at all anymore. "Do not lie to me, boy. I have known you too long." She studied him with sharp eyes. "Your mother is worried about you. I am worried about you. You cannot continue like this." "I am fine, Lady Ashford." "You are not fine. You are wasting away in this house." She leaned forward. "You need purpose. You need something to care about again. You need a wife." He almost laughed. "I doubt any woman would want to marry me in my current state." "Then you are a fool." Lady Ashford's voice was firm. "You are a duke. You are handsome when you bother to shave properly. You have wealth and position. Any mother in London would throw her daughter at you. I do not want some simpering debutante who only wants my title." "Then what do you want?" The question hung in the air. Alexander realized he did not have an answer. What did he want? He wanted the pain to stop. He wanted to sleep without nightmares. He wanted to feel something other than emptiness. "I want peace," he said finally. Lady Ashford nodded slowly. "Perhaps I can help with that." She stood up. "I have a proposition for you. Come to tea at my house tomorrow. I may have a solution to both our problems." She left before he could ask what she meant. Alexander stared at the closed door. He should refuse. He should send a note declining the invitation. But something in Lady Ashford's voice caught his attention. She had a plan, and he was curious, despite himself. The next afternoon, Eleanor carried a tray of tea things into the drawing room. Her aunt sat with Lady Ashford. Beatrice was there too, wearing her best dress. She smiled and laughed at everything Lady Ashford said. Eleanor set down the tray carefully. She poured the tea exactly as her aunt taught her, not too fast, not too slow. The cup must be filled to the right level. The saucer must be spotless. "Thank you, girl," Aunt Margaret said dismissively. "You may go." Eleanor curtsied and turned to leave. "Wait!" Lady Ashford's voice stopped her. "Come here, child. Let me look at you." Eleanor's heart hammered in her chest. She walked slowly back. She kept her eyes down. Lady Ashford reached out and lifted her chin. Her touch was surprisingly gentle. "What is your name?" "Eleanor, my lady." "How old are you, Eleanor?" 18, my lady." Lady Ashford studied her face. Eleanor wanted to shrink away. She knew what the woman saw. A plain girl with brown hair and grey eyes. A girl who wore an ill-fitting dress that used to belong to Beatrice. A girl with rough hands and sad eyes. "She is my niece," Aunt Margaret said quickly. "My late sister's child. We took her in out of Christian charity after her parents died. She helps with household duties." "I see." Lady Ashford released Eleanor's chin, but her eyes remained thoughtful. "Margaret, might I speak with you privately?" Aunt Margaret looked surprised, but she nodded. "Beatrice, take Eleanor to the kitchen. Make sure cook has everything ready for dinner." Beatrice grabbed Eleanor's arm roughly. She pulled her from the room. As soon as they were in the hallway, Beatrice hissed in her ear. "What did you do? Why was Lady Ashford looking at you like that?" "I do not know. I did nothing wrong." "You must have done something. Lady Ashford never notices servants." Beatrice's grip tightened. If you have ruined my chances with her nephew somehow, I will make you sorry. Eleanor pulled free. She rubbed her arm where Beatrice's fingers left red marks. I did nothing, I simply poured the tea.
You are always causing trouble.
Beatrice's pretty face twisted with anger. Just stay out of sight. No one wants to look at you anyway. Eleanor fled to the kitchen. She helped cook prepare dinner. Her mind raced with questions. Why did Lady Ashford look at her like that? What did she want? Eleanor had learned not to hope, but a small spark ignited in her chest, despite her best efforts. That evening, Aunt Margaret called Eleanor to her private sitting room. This was unusual. Eleanor was rarely allowed in this part of the house. Her aunt sat in her favorite chair. She looked pleased about something. Eleanor, sit down. Eleanor perched on the edge of a chair. She folded her hands in her lap. Her aunt studied her for a long moment. Lady Ashford has made an unusual request, Aunt Margaret began. It seems the Duke of Ashbourne is in need of a wife. He was wounded in the war. He requires someone to help manage his household and attend to his needs. Lady Ashford believes you would be suitable for this position. Eleanor's mouth fell open. She must have misheard. I do not understand. It is quite simple. The Duke needs a wife. You need a husband. Lady Ashford has arranged a marriage between you. But why me? I am no one. I have no dowry. I have nothing to offer a duke. Precisely. Aunt Margaret smiled thinly. The Duke does not want a society marriage. He does not want a bride who expects balls and parties. He wants someone quiet, someone obedient, someone who will not make demands. You are perfect. The words stung. Even in this, Eleanor was chosen because she was nothing, because she would be grateful for scraps. Do I have a choice? Eleanor asked quietly. Of course not. Aunt Margaret's voice was sharp. This is an incredible opportunity. You will marry a duke. You will be a duchess. Do you know how lucky you are? After everything we have done for you, this is how you repay us. You will marry the Duke of Ashbourne in 1 week. The arrangements have already been made. 1 week. 7 days. Eleanor felt dizzy. Her life was changing, and she had no say in it. But perhaps change was better than staying here. Perhaps a duke who needed help was better than a family who despised her. Yes, Aunt Margaret, she whispered. I will do as you say. Good, now go to your room. I will have Mrs. Thompson bring up some fabric. We need to make you a wedding dress. It will not be fancy, of course. The Duke has requested a quiet ceremony. Just close family. He does not want any fuss. Eleanor climbed the stairs to her tiny attic room. She sat on her narrow bed. Her whole body shook. In 1 week, she would marry a man she had never met. A duke. A wounded soldier. A stranger. She did not know whether to be terrified or hopeful. So she felt both. She pressed her hands to her chest and tried to breathe slowly. Her life was about to change forever, and she had no idea if it would be better or worse than what she was leaving behind. The week passed in a blur. Eleanor saw the Duke only once before the wedding. He came to the house with Lady Ashford. Eleanor was summoned to the drawing room. She stood before him and curtsied. He was tall. His dark hair was touched with grey at the temples, even though he was not old. His face was handsome but harsh. Lines of pain marked his features. His left arm hung stiffly at his side. He looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were a deep blue. They looked tired. "Can you read and write?" he asked. His voice was deep and rough. "Yes, Your Grace. My father was a vicar. He taught me." "Good. Can you manage a household?" "I have run my aunt's household for 6 years, Your Grace." He nodded. I do not expect romance from this marriage. I need someone to manage my home. Someone who will not bother me with unnecessary chatter. Can you do that? Eleanor's heart sank. But what did she expect? Love? That was for storybooks. Yes, Your Grace, I can do that. Then we have an understanding. He turned to Lady Ashford. The wedding will be Saturday at 10 o'clock. Just immediate family. He left without another word. Eleanor stared at the closed door. That was the man she would marry. Cold, distant, broken. But she was broken too. Perhaps two broken people could coexist if they asked nothing from each other. Perhaps it was enough to escape this house and this life. Perhaps that was all the happiness she deserved. Saturday arrived. Eleanor wore a simple white dress that Mrs. Thompson made. It fit better than her usual clothes. Her hair was arranged neatly. She looked in the small mirror in her room. She looked like a stranger. The wedding took place in the Duke's private chapel. Only a handful of people attended. Lady Ashford, Aunt Margaret and Beatrice, the Dowager Duchess, Alexander's mother, who looked at Eleanor with barely concealed disappointment, a few servants. The ceremony was brief. Eleanor spoke her vows in a quiet voice. Alexander spoke his in a flat tone. The vicar pronounced them man and wife. Alexander did not kiss her. He simply nodded and turned away. A small wedding breakfast followed. Eleanor sat at the long table and ate nothing. Her stomach was too tight. Beatrice glared at her from across the table. Aunt Margaret looked smug. The Dowager Duchess spoke only to her son. Then it was over. Alexander stood. The carriage is ready. We leave for Ashbourne Manor within the hour. Ashbourne Manor, his country estate. Eleanor had never left London. She followed her new husband to the carriage. He handed her in with his right hand. His left arm remained stiff. He did not sit beside her. He sat across from her. He stared out the window as the carriage rolled through the London streets. Eleanor had never felt more alone. The journey took 5 hours. Neither of them spoke. Alexander kept his eyes on the passing landscape. Eleanor studied her hands. The silence pressed down on her like a weight. Finally, the carriage turned onto a long drive. Ashbourne Manor rose before them. It was beautiful. Grey stone covered in ivy. Tall windows that reflected the afternoon sun. Gardens that stretched in every direction. It looked like something from a dream. The carriage stopped. A butler and several servants waited on the steps. Alexander climbed out. He did not help Eleanor down. She managed on her own. Her legs shook from sitting so long. "This is my wife, the new Duchess of Ashbourne," Alexander said to the assembled staff. "She will be managing the household. You will obey her as you would obey me. Mrs. Winters, please show her to her rooms." The housekeeper curtsied. "Yes, Your Grace. If you will follow me, Your Grace." Eleanor followed Mrs. Winters into the house. The entrance hall was grand. A sweeping staircase led to the upper floors. Portraits lined the walls. Eleanor tried not to stare at everything like a country bumpkin. Her rooms were larger than her aunt's entire house. A sitting room connected to a bedroom. Everything was decorated in soft blues and creams. A fire crackled in the fireplace. It was the most beautiful thing Eleanor had ever seen. "The Duke's rooms are through that door," Mrs. Winters said, pointing to a connecting door. "Though His Grace rarely uses it these days, he prefers his own space. Your lady's maid will be up shortly to help you dress for dinner. Dinner is at 8 o'clock in the family dining room." The housekeeper left. Eleanor stood in the middle of the sitting room. She turned in a slow circle. This was hers. These beautiful rooms. This warm fire. this soft carpet under her feet. She sat down on the sofa. It was so soft she nearly gasped. For 6 years she slept on a hard cot. For 6 years she was cold and hungry and worked until her hands bled. And now she was a duchess with beautiful rooms and servants of her own. But she had never felt more lost. A young maid arrived to help her dress for dinner. The girl was friendly and chatted about the house and the other servants. Eleanor barely heard her. She was too nervous about facing Alexander again. At 8 o'clock, she made her way downstairs. A footman showed her to the family dining room. Alexander was already there. He stood by the window with a glass of brandy. He had changed into evening clothes. He looked every inch the Duke. "Sit down," he said without turning around. "Dinner will be served shortly." Eleanor sat at one end of the long table. Alexander sat at the other end. It felt like miles stretched between them. Footmen served course after course. Eleanor tried to eat. The food was delicious, but it tasted like ash in her mouth. Alexander did not speak. He ate mechanically. He did not look at her once. As soon as the meal ended, he stood. "I have work to do in my study. I will say good night." "Good night, Your Grace," Eleanor whispered. He paused at the door. "You should call me Alexander. We are married after all." Then he was gone. Eleanor sat alone at the long table. The footman cleared the dishes around her. She felt invisible. She felt like a ghost in this beautiful house. This was her life now. This was her marriage. She was a duchess who lived in a grand manor with a husband who could barely look at her. She wanted to cry, but she had learned long ago that tears changed nothing. She went to her rooms. She changed into a nightgown with her maid's help. She climbed into the enormous bed. The sheets were soft. The mattress was comfortable, but Eleanor lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and wondering if she had traded one prison for another. 3 days passed. Eleanor and Alexander existed in the same house, but lived separate lives. He spent his days in his study or riding across the estate. He ate dinner with her in silence. Then he disappeared again. Eleanor tried to occupy herself. She met with Mrs. Winters and learned about the household. She walked in the gardens. She explored the library, but the loneliness was crushing. On the 4th night, everything changed. Eleanor was in the library. She found a book of poetry and lost herself in the words. It was late, past midnight. She did not hear the footsteps in the hall. A crash echoed through the house, then a shout of pain. Eleanor dropped her book. She ran toward the sound. Her heart pounded. She found Alexander at the bottom of the stairs. He had fallen. His face was white with pain. He clutched his left shoulder. Blood seeped through his fingers. "Your Grace," Eleanor dropped to her knees beside him. "What happened?" The wound reopened. "I lost my balance." His jaw clenched. "Help me to my room." Eleanor got her shoulder under his right arm. She was small, but stronger than she looked. Years of hard work gave her muscles. Together they climbed the stairs slowly. Every step made Alexander gasp with pain. His rooms were dark. Eleanor managed to get him to his bed. She lit several candles. In the flickering light, she saw blood spreading across his shirt. "I need to send for the doctor," she said. "No," Alexander's voice was harsh. "No, doctor. The wound just needs cleaning and fresh bandages. Can you do it?" "I do not know. I have never." "Please." The word was torn from him. "I cannot bear another doctor poking at it. Just help me." Eleanor looked at his pain-filled eyes. She nodded. "Tell me what to do." "Undress me." The command was simple, but Eleanor froze. She had never seen a man unclothed. She was innocent in every way. Heat flooded her cheeks, but Alexander needed help. This was no time for maidenly nerves. Her hands shook as she reached for the buttons of his waistcoat. She fumbled with them. Alexander watched her face. Something shifted in his expression. "You have never done this before," he said quietly. "No." Eleanor focused on the buttons. "But I am a quick learner." She managed to remove his waistcoat. Then she started on his shirt. The fabric was soaked with blood. Her stomach turned. But she swallowed hard and kept going. "I am sorry," Alexander said. "This is not proper, but the servants are asleep, and I do not want them to see me like this." "You do not need to explain." Eleanor carefully peeled the shirt away from his shoulder. The wound underneath was angry and red. It had torn open. Fresh blood welled from it. "Just tell me what to do. There is water in the basin. Bring it here, and clean cloths." Eleanor moved quickly. She gathered what she needed. Then she sat on the edge of the bed. She cleaned the wound as gently as she could. Alexander hissed with pain, but he did not cry out. Her innocent hands moved carefully across his skin. She had never touched a man like this. She saw the scars that covered his chest and back, evidence of the war he survived. Her heart ached for him. "You are very gentle," Alexander said. His voice had changed. It was softer. "Your hands are soothing." Eleanor glanced at his face. He was looking at her differently, not with the cold distance of before, but with something else. Something that made her pulse quicken. "I am trying not to hurt you," she said. "You are not hurting me." His right hand covered hers. "You are making the pain less." They stayed like that for a moment, her hand under his. The candlelight flickering around them. Something passed between them. A recognition, a connection. Eleanor pulled her hand away gently. She finished cleaning the wound. Then she found the bandages in his drawer. She wrapped his shoulder carefully. Her hands steadied as she worked. When she finished, Alexander leaned back against the pillows. The lines of pain on his face had eased slightly. He looked exhausted, but his eyes remained on her. "Thank you," he said. "I do not know what I would have done without you. You are my husband. Of course I would help you. You could have been disgusted. You could have called for servants. You could have turned away." He paused. "But you did not." Eleanor stood. She needed to put distance between them. The air felt too warm. Her heart beat too fast. "You should rest now. The wound needs time to heal. Will you stay?" The question surprised them both. "Just for a little while. I do not want to be alone with the nightmares tonight." Eleanor looked at him. This powerful duke, this wounded soldier, he looked vulnerable in a way that broke her heart. How could she refuse? "I will stay," she said softly. She sat in the chair by his bed. She watched as his eyes slowly closed. His breathing deepened. Sleep claimed him. Eleanor sat in the quiet darkness and realized something had shifted between them tonight. She had seen his wounds, both the ones on his body and the ones in his soul, and he had let her. He had trusted her with his pain. That trust was precious. It was the first real thing between them. Eleanor stayed until dawn began to lighten the sky. Then she crept quietly to her own rooms. She climbed into bed, but she could not sleep. All she could think about was the feel of his skin under her hands, the way he looked at her, the sound of his voice when he asked her to stay. Something was beginning, something tender and fragile. Eleanor was afraid to hope, But hope bloomed in her chest anyway, like a flower pushing through frozen ground. The next morning, Eleanor woke late. Her maid brought breakfast to her room. Eleanor ate slowly. She wondered if Alexander remembered asking her to stay. She wondered if he regretted showing her his vulnerability. At noon, a footman knocked on her door. "His Grace requests your presence in his study, Your Grace." Eleanor's stomach fluttered. She changed into a day dress. She arranged her hair neatly. Then she walked to his study with her heart in her throat. Alexander stood when she entered. He looked better. The color had returned to his face. His shoulder was properly bandaged. But something else was different too. The coldness in his eyes had thawed. "Please, sit down." He gestured to a chair near the fire. "I wanted to thank you properly for last night." Eleanor sat. She folded her hands in her lap. "There is no need to thank me. There is every need." He sat across from her. "I have not been kind to you since we married. I have ignored you. I have treated you like a piece of furniture. That was wrong. You did not want this marriage. I understand that. That does not excuse my behavior." He leaned forward. "The truth is, I did not want any marriage. I felt I had nothing to offer, a wife, except a broken body and a broken soul. But last night, you showed me kindness. You did not flinch from my wounds. You did not turn away, and I realized I have been a fool." Eleanor's breath caught. She did not dare move. "I would like to start again," Alexander continued. "If you are willing, I would like to know my wife. I would like to try to be a proper husband to you." Tears pricked Eleanor's eyes. She blinked them back. "I would like that very much." A smile touched his lips. It transformed his face, made him look younger. "Then let us begin. Tell me about yourself, Eleanor. I know almost nothing about you." So she did. She told him about her childhood, about her father's parish and her mother's songs, about the fever that took them both, about the 6 years with her aunt's family. She did not hide the pain. She let him see her scars too. Alexander listened. Really listened. His eyes never left her face. When she finished, he reached across and took her hand. His touch was warm. "You have survived so much," he said. "You are stronger than you know." "So are you," she replied. "Your wounds do not make you weak. They make you brave." Something sparked in his eyes. He squeezed her hand gently. They sat together in comfortable silence. The fire crackled. Rain began to fall outside the windows, and for the first time since her wedding, Eleanor felt a flicker of happiness. Over the following weeks, Alexander and Eleanor built something new together. They shared breakfast each morning. They walked in the gardens when the weather allowed. They talked about everything and nothing. Alexander told her about the war, about the battles he fought, about the friends he lost, about the nightmares that still haunted him. Eleanor listened without judgment. She held his hand when the memories became too painful. Eleanor told him about her dreams, about the books she loved, about the small kindnesses she held onto during her years of servitude. Alexander listened with attention that made her feel valued, seen. They discovered they both loved music. One evening, Alexander asked her to play the pianoforte in the music room. Eleanor's fingers were stiff from years of hard work, but the music came back to her. She played a simple melody. Alexander stood beside the piano and watched her with wonder in his eyes. "You are beautiful when you play," he said. "Your whole face lights up." Eleanor's hands stilled on the keys. "No one has ever called me beautiful before. Then everyone before me was blind." Alexander came around the piano. He tilted her face up to his. You are beautiful, Eleanor. Your kindness makes you beautiful. Your strength makes you beautiful. Your gentle heart makes you beautiful. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Alexander wiped them away with his thumb. Then he leaned down and kissed her forehead. It was a tender kiss, a promise of more to come. Eleanor's heart soared. She was falling in love with her husband, with this wounded duke who was learning to smile again, with this broken man who was learning to hope again. And she thought, perhaps he was falling in love with her too. One afternoon, they rode across the estate together. Alexander's shoulder was healing well. He could ride again without too much pain. Eleanor borrowed a riding habit from the Duchess's wardrobe. It fit reasonably well. They stopped at the top of a hill. The entire valley spread below them. The manor house looked small in the distance. The sky was blue and cloudless. Alexander dismounted and helped Eleanor down. His hands lingered on her waist. "I want to tell you something," he said, "but I fear it is too soon." Eleanor's pulse quickened. "You can tell me anything. I am glad Lady Ashford arranged our marriage." He took both her hands in his. "I did not want a wife, but now I cannot imagine my life without you. You have brought light back into my darkness. You have made me want to live again, not just exist." Alexander. His name was a breath on her lips. "I am falling in love with you, Eleanor." The words tumbled out, raw, honest. "I know I have no right to expect you to feel the same. I know this marriage was forced upon you, but I needed you to know you have my heart. Completely." Joy exploded in Eleanor's chest. She laughed through sudden tears. "You have my heart too. I love you. I think I started loving you the night you asked me to stay. When you let me see the real you." Alexander pulled her into his arms. He held her close, his face buried in her hair. "Say it again." "I love you." She wrapped her arms around him. "I love you." He pulled back and looked at her face. His eyes blazed with emotion. Then he lowered his head and kissed her. Really kissed her. His lips were warm and firm. Eleanor melted into him. Her first kiss. Her first love. Everything she dreamed about in her lonely attic room. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "You are mine," he whispered, "and I am yours, forever." "Forever," Eleanor agreed. They rode back to the manor holding hands. Eleanor felt like she was floating. She was loved. She was cherished. She was home. That night, they shared dinner in the small family dining room. But this time, Alexander moved his chair next to hers. They talked and laughed. He fed her bites from his plate. She stole sips from his wine glass. The servants exchanged knowing smiles. After dinner, they walked through the gardens in the moonlight. Alexander wrapped his arm around her. Eleanor leaned into his warmth. They talked about the future, about the changes they would make to the estate, about the family they might have one day. "I want to fill this house with love and laughter," Alexander said. "I want children who run through these halls. I want to grow old with you by my side." "I want that too." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "I want to build a life with you, a real life, not the half-life I have been living." They stopped by the fountain in the center garden. Alexander turned her to face him. He cupped her face in his hands. "You have saved me, Eleanor. You brought me back from the darkness. How can I ever thank you?" "Just love me," she said simply. "That is all I need. That is the easiest thing you have ever asked me to do." He kissed her again, slowly, deeply. A kiss full of promise. Eleanor had never been happier. She had found her place in the world. She had found her purpose. She had found her love. Everything she thought she would never have was now hers. But happiness, she would learn, was a fragile thing, and there were those who would try to take it away. 2 weeks later, a carriage arrived at Ashbourne Manor. Eleanor was in the garden cutting flowers. She heard the commotion and walked toward the house. A familiar voice made her freeze. "I demand to see the Duke immediately." Beatrice. Eleanor's cousin stood on the front steps. She wore an expensive traveling dress. Her face was flushed with anger. Eleanor squared her shoulders. She was the Duchess of Ashbourne now. She would not cower before her cousin anymore. She walked up the steps with her head high. "Beatrice, what are you doing here?" Beatrice whirled around. Her eyes widened when she saw Eleanor in a beautiful day dress with her hair properly styled. "So it is true you actually married the Duke?" "Yes, he is my husband." "It should have been me." Beatrice's voice rose. "I am the beautiful one. I am the accomplished one. Why did he choose you? What did you do to trick him?" Eleanor kept her voice calm. "I did nothing. Lady Ashford arranged the match. If you have a complaint, take it up with her. You always ruin everything." Beatrice's face twisted with rage. "Mother took you in out of kindness. We fed you, we clothed you, and this is how you repay us, by stealing a duke." "I stole nothing. Alexander is my husband, and you need to leave." "I will not leave until I speak to him. He needs to know what you really are. A servant, a burden, a worthless orphan." The words cut deep. Eleanor felt the old wounds open. But then strong hands settled on her shoulders. Alexander's voice came from behind her. "That is enough." Beatrice's eyes went wide. Alexander moved to stand beside Eleanor. His arm went around her waist. He looked at Beatrice with cold fury. "My wife is none of those things you called her. She is kind. She is strong. She is everything good in my life. And you will apologize to her immediately." "But Your Grace, you do not understand." "I understand perfectly." Alexander's voice could cut glass. "You are jealous. You thought you deserved a duke. But you know what? Eleanor deserves happiness more than anyone I have ever met. She survived years of cruelty from people like you. She never let it break her spirit. She is 10 times the woman you will ever be." Beatrice's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. "Now apologize to my wife, or I will have you removed from my property." "I am sorry," Beatrice choked out. The words sounded like poison on her tongue. "Good. Now leave, and do not come back. Neither you nor your mother are welcome here. If I hear that you have bothered Eleanor in any way, I will make sure every door in London is closed to you. Do you understand?" Beatrice nodded. Tears of rage streamed down her face. She turned and ran to the carriage. It rolled away down the drive. Eleanor sagged against Alexander. She was shaking. He turned her into his arms and held her tight. "She is gone. You never have to see her again." "Thank you," Eleanor's voice broke. "Thank you for defending me. Always." He kissed the top of her head. "I will always defend you. You are my wife, my love. No one will hurt you again." Eleanor clung to him. The poison Beatrice brought started to seep into her mind. The old voices whispered, "Worthless. Burden. Not good enough." What if Beatrice was right? What if Eleanor did not deserve this happiness? What if Alexander woke up one day and realized he made a mistake? Over the next few days, Eleanor grew quiet. She pulled away from Alexander without meaning to. The insecurities ate at her. At night, she lay awake and wondered when he would tire of her, when he would see that she was nothing special. Alexander noticed the change. He tried to draw her out, but Eleanor could not shake the darkness. Finally, one evening, Alexander found her in the library. She was staring at a book, but not reading it. He sat beside her and took the book from her hands. "Tell me what is wrong." "Nothing is wrong. Do not lie to me, Eleanor." His voice was gentle. "Ever since your cousin came, you have been different, distant." "Why?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "What if she was right? What if I am not good enough for you? What if you realize you made a mistake?" "A mistake?" Alexander looked stunned. "Eleanor, marrying you is the best thing I have ever done. But I am no one. I have nothing to offer you. You have everything to offer me." He took her face in his hands. "You gave me hope. You gave me joy. You gave me a reason to live. How can you think you are not enough?" "Because I was told I was not enough every day for 6 years. Because I scrubbed floors and ate leftovers and was reminded constantly that I was a burden. And sometimes, in the dark, I still believe it." Alexander's eyes filled with pain. "Oh, my love, those people were wrong. They were cruel and wrong. You are not a burden. You are a blessing, my blessing." "But what if—" "No," he cut her off. "Listen to me. I love you. Not because you are a duchess, not because you manage my household. I love you because of who you are. Your kindness, your strength, your gentle heart. I love you because when I am with you, I am home." The words broke through Eleanor's defenses. She started to cry, great shaking sobs. Alexander pulled her into his lap and held her. He rocked her gently and whispered words of love and comfort. "You are enough," he murmured. "You have always been enough. You are everything." Eleanor cried until she had no tears left. Then she lifted her head and looked at him. "I am sorry. I should not doubt you. I should not doubt us. We both carry wounds, Eleanor. We both have darkness we fight, but we fight it together now. You are not alone anymore, and neither am I." She nodded. Then she kissed him, poured all her love and gratitude into it. Alexander kissed her back with fierce tenderness. When they broke apart, Eleanor felt lighter. The poison was gone. Beatrice's words had no power anymore. "I love you," she whispered. "I will try to remember that I am enough." "You are more than enough," he smiled at her, "and I will spend every day of my life proving it to you." They sat together in the quiet library. The fire crackled. Outside, rain began to fall, but inside, they were warm and safe. They had each other, and that was everything. The next morning brought a new challenge. A letter arrived from the Dowager Duchess. She was coming to visit. Alexander read the letter with a frown. "My mother still has not accepted our marriage," he said. "She wanted me to marry someone from an old family, someone with connections." Eleanor's stomach twisted. "What will she say when she sees me again?" "It does not matter what she says." Alexander took her hand. "You are my wife. My mother will learn to accept that, and if she cannot, then she will not be welcome in our home." The Dowager Duchess arrived 2 days later. She swept into the drawing room like a queen. Eleanor stood to greet her. She curtsied properly, but the older woman barely glanced at her. "Alexander, I need to speak with you, alone. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of my wife." The dowager's lips thinned. "Very well, I have heard disturbing reports. People are talking about your marriage. They say you married beneath you. They say your wife was a servant in her aunt's house." "Eleanor was treated as a servant by cruel relatives," Alexander said. "But she is the daughter of a gentleman. Her father was a vicar. Her family is respectable." "Respectable is not enough. You are a duke. You should have married the daughter of an earl at the very least. Eleanor felt shame burn through her. The old feelings rushed back. Not good enough. Not worthy. But then Alexander stood. He moved to stand behind Eleanor's chair. His hands rested on her shoulders. Mother, I will say this once. Eleanor is my wife. I love her. She makes me happy. She brought me back to life. I do not care what society thinks. I do not care about bloodlines or connections. I care about her. The dowager stared at him. You love her. I love her more than life itself. The room fell silent. The dowager looked between them. She saw the way Alexander's hands rested protectively on Eleanor's shoulders. She saw the way Eleanor leaned back against him slightly. She saw real love. Her expression softened slightly. I only want you to be happy, Alexander. After the war, I was afraid I had lost you. You were so distant, so cold. But now, she paused. Now you look alive again. That is because of Eleanor. The dowager looked at Eleanor directly for the first time. Perhaps I judged too quickly. If you make my son happy, then I will try to accept this marriage. It was not a warm welcome, but it was a start. Eleanor nodded. Thank you, Your Grace. The dowager stayed for tea. The conversation was stilted, but it was not hostile. When she left, she kissed Alexander's cheek, and she inclined her head to Eleanor, a small gesture of acknowledgement. After she left, Alexander wrapped his arms around Eleanor. You see, even my formidable mother is coming around. Eleanor laughed. It felt good to laugh. She terrifies me. She terrifies everyone. But she saw that I love you. That is all that matters. Eleanor turned in his arms. She looked up at him. Thank you for always defending me, for always choosing me. I will always choose you. He kissed her softly. You are my choice, my only choice, forever. The challenges made them stronger. Every time someone questioned their marriage, Alexander stood firm. Every time Eleanor doubted herself, Alexander reminded her of her worth, and slowly Eleanor began to believe it. She was worthy of love. She was deserving of happiness. She was enough. Summer turned to autumn. The leaves changed color. The air grew crisp. Eleanor and Alexander's love deepened with each passing day. They were not just husband and wife. They were partners, best friends, soulmates. One evening, Eleanor had news. She waited until after dinner. They sat together in the drawing room. Alexander read correspondence while Eleanor embroidered. It was a peaceful domestic scene. Alexander, I need to tell you something. He looked up. What is it? Eleanor set down her embroidery. Her hands shook slightly. I saw the doctor in the village today. He confirmed what I suspected. I am with child. Alexander's eyes went wide. We are, a baby? Yes. Eleanor smiled nervously. Are you happy? He crossed the room in 3 strides. He fell to his knees before her chair. His hands covered her still flat stomach. His eyes were bright with tears. Happy? I am beyond happy. I have no words. He looked up at her. You have given me everything, Eleanor. Hope, love, and now a child. How did I become so blessed? Eleanor's tears spilled over. I worried you might think it was too soon. Nothing with you could ever be too soon. He pulled her down and kissed her. I love you, and I will love our child. We will fill this house with love and laughter, just as we said. Eleanor laughed through her tears. We will need to prepare a nursery. We will have the best nursery in all of England. Alexander stood and pulled her to her feet. He spun her in a circle. They both laughed like children. That night, they lay together in bed. Alexander's hand rested on her stomach. He talked to the baby already, told it how loved it was, how wanted. Eleanor listened and felt her heart might burst with happiness. She had come so far, from a girl scrubbing floors to a duchess carrying the heir to a dukedom, from worthless to cherished, from invisible to loved. "What are you thinking?" Alexander asked. "I am thinking about how my life changed. How one moment can change everything. The moment you agreed to marry me." "No." Eleanor smiled in the darkness. "The moment you fell and asked me to help you, the moment you trusted me with your pain, that is when everything changed. That is when we truly found each other." Alexander pulled her closer. "Then I am grateful I fell. I am grateful for the wound that brought us together." "Your wound healed," Eleanor said softly, "but the scar remains. Just like my scars remain. We are both marked by our pasts, but we do not let our pasts define us." Alexander kissed her temple. "We let our love define us instead." Eleanor closed her eyes. She felt safe. She felt cherished. She felt home. "I love you, Alexander, more than words can say. And I love you, Eleanor, my wife, my duchess, my everything." They fell asleep, wrapped in each other's arms. Outside, stars filled the sky. The future stretched before them, full of promise, full of hope, full of love. In the spring, Eleanor gave birth to a healthy son. They named him Thomas after Eleanor's father. Alexander held his son with tears streaming down his face. He looked at Eleanor lying in bed, exhausted but glowing, and he knew he had everything he ever needed. The christening was held at the estate. Friends and family came from all over England. Even the Dowager Duchess softened further. She held her grandson with obvious love. She looked at Eleanor with something like respect. "You have made my son happy," she said quietly. "You have given him a family. For that, I am grateful." Eleanor blinked back tears. "Thank you, Your Grace. That means more than you know." Lady Ashford attended too. She watched Eleanor and Alexander with satisfaction. After the ceremony, she pulled Eleanor aside. "I knew you two would be good for each other," she said. "I saw something in you, child. A strength, a goodness. Alexander needed that. And you needed someone who would see your worth." "You changed my life," Eleanor said. "You gave me a chance when no one else did. I simply opened a door. You walked through it with courage. Be proud of yourself, Eleanor. You have earned this happiness." Eleanor watched Alexander across the room. He held their son and laughed at something his friend said. He looked healthy, strong, happy. He looked nothing like the broken man she married months ago. And she was nothing like the broken girl who scrubbed floors in her aunt's house. They had healed each other. Two wounded souls who found wholeness together. That evening, after all the guests left, Eleanor found Alexander in the nursery. He stood over Thomas's cradle, watching their son sleep. She slipped her arms around his waist from behind. He covered her hands with his. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For saying yes, for giving me a chance, for loving me even when I did not deserve it." Eleanor rested her cheek against his back. "You always deserved it. You just did not believe it yet." He turned in her arms. He cupped her face and looked at her with so much love, it took her breath away. "I will spend the rest of my life making you happy. You already have." She smiled. "You gave me a home, a family, a purpose, but most of all, you gave me love. Real love. The kind I thought only existed in stories." "This is our story," Alexander said. and it is just beginning. He kissed her as the last light faded from the sky. In the cradle beside them, their son slept peacefully. Outside, the gardens bloomed with new life. The house that once echoed with loneliness now rang with love and laughter. Eleanor thought about the girl she used to be, the girl who dreamed of something better while scrubbing floors. That girl would never have believed this life was possible, would never have believed she could be so loved. But it was real. All of it. The Duke who fell and asked her to help him. The innocent hands that soothed his pain. The love that bloomed between two broken people. The family they built together. They had both been wounded, both been lost. But they found each other in the darkness, and together they walked into the light. This was their happy ending, but it was also their happy beginning. A life built on love and trust, and the courage to be vulnerable. A life where two people who thought they were not enough discovered they were everything to each other. And in that beautiful manor house in the English countryside, under the stars that witnessed their journey, the Duke and Duchess of Ashbourne held each other close and knew they were finally truly home.